Okay, good morning. We are here for today's videotaped deposition of Kathy Maasoumi, DDS, being taken on April 10th, 2018.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Maasoumi, in this case, have you produced the entirety of Ms. Qasemi's dental record?
Yes.
And how did you go about gathering it to produce it?
From computer information and paper charts.
What's your software? Is it
Easy Dental. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which version?
2009.
And when you pulled her records,
Mm-hmm.
you used, there's a filter that you use to specify the beginning and end date range, correct?
Yes.
How did you enter, what data did you enter into that filter?
From 2008-9 to present.
Which
To
was it,
2016.
2008 or 9?
2008. 2008.
So you entered date range of January
January
1st.
2008.
Let me finish and I know I haven't gone through a lot of the admonitions, but I will. But I do ask that one of them is, you let me finish my question before you answer. That way, we followed Madam Reporter's bold red edict on her laptop cover. It says, speak one at a time.
I understand.
Thank you. So you entered January 1st, 2008, and where did you enter that?
Top part.
In Easy Dental, you went about generating a report. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then where it says to specify the date range, you put in January 1st, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Through at that time, what was the present, which was what date?
November 2016. November 1st or 2016.
And November 1st, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what else did you put into the query form in order to get that report?
I don't recall where else.
Did you put the patient's name?
Of course.
Right. And she had 2 files with you, right?
Apparently, yes.
Apparently. So did those files both start with GH?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the second file? What were each of those file identifiers?
One was active, one was inactive.
Okay. Which one was inactive?
The one before November 1st, 2013.
And that inactive file, what made it inactive?
Whoever was at the front desk did it before,
What does that mean?
which happened to be the friend of Mrs. Qasemi.
Okay. What does that mean to be inactive?
I cannot reproduce papers. I cannot print out papers or have access to x-rays.
Okay. So you don't have access, and nor did you produce to us any charts, x-rays, anything before November 20th, 2013. Is that right?
Correct.
So I'm going to go through some of the admonitions. Have you ever been deposed?
No.
Have you ever testified in court?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with the effect of the oath that you took to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
Yes,
but
I
the
do.
truth? Well, let me finish my questions, because again, it's going to be a mixed record. Right? So, when you took the oath, do you remember what oath you just took?
Yes.
What was it?
That I say the truth.
And
Solemnly.
the whole truth.
The whole truth.
And
Nothing but the truth. Yes.
Right. And do you know what that means?
Yes.
What is the difference in your mind between telling the truth and
Yes.
telling the whole truth? Is there a difference between those two?
Of course.
What is the difference?
Telling the truth is the partial truth, I guess. And telling the why should there be a difference? I don't understand it.
So you don't
Question.
think there's a difference?
I don't think there is a difference.
So if I ask you, what is on this desk, and you tell me there's a yellow highlighter, which is
Yes.
it is in fact on this desk, right? That's the truth.
Of course.
But is it the whole truth?
There are some other stuff here.
Which you're not saying, so that would not be the whole truth to just say there's a highlighter, correct?
Yes, correct.
So do you now understand the difference between just the truth and then the whole truth?
Yes.
So if you were going to tell the whole truth about what's on this desk, you would say perhaps the highlighter, these laptops, papers, etc., correct?
Correct.
The oath that you took here is the same exact oath as you would take at trial in a court of law.
Yes.
Do you understand that? So in June, we're going to have a trial in this case, and you're going to be a witness at that trial.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're going to take an oath on the stand, and you're going to say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's exactly the same oath as you're taking today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So even though we're kind of in an informal room, it's no different, no less important, no
Of
less
course.
momentous, the oath that you're taking. Got it.
Absolutely.
How long have you had dentistry as your career? How long have you been
Since 1994,
at that? Okay. And where did you graduate from?
from USC Dental School.
And when you started out from USC, did you have your own practice?
I worked for Western Dental for almost a year. Then I started my own practice.
In 1995?
Yes.
And where was that practice located?
Downtown Los Angeles.
Did you own the building or lease the premises?
I leased the premises.
And how many operatories did you have?
2.
Was it just you working there?
Yes.
Did you have any employees?
1 assistant.
Was she your employee?
Yes.
Full-time, part-time?
Part-time.
Part-time. And how long were you working at the downtown office?
95 till 2012.
And did you sell that office?
Yes, I did.
And to whom?
To Charles Huang, Dr. Charles Huang.
Could you spell that last name?
Huang.
And did he buy your practice and take over your lease as well? Is that what he did?
Yes,
And so why did you sell the practice?
because commute was very hard.
To where?
From Orange County to downtown Los Angeles.
And where in Orange County did you live at the time?
Irvine?
Irvine. Same place you live now?
No, I'm living in Laguna Hills now.
Laguna Hills.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you sell it for?
$200,000.
Okay. And was he the only person who made an offer?
No, I had other offers.
He was the best offer?
Yes.
And then how long, where did you go after that?
Where did I go? I had an office in Irvine.
So,
In Lake Forest, I'm sorry.
so at the same time as you had the downtown office,
Mhm.
for some period of time you also had a Lake Forest office. And how long were you at, well, look, scratch that. When did you open up the Lake Forest office?
2010.
And that was closer to your home.
Yes.
And until what time did you have the Lake Forest office, or is it still your office now?
I still have that practice.
And have you owned any other dental offices?
Yes.
And where, how many others?
One more in Irvine that I sold that practice 2009.
On Culver Street?
Yes, Culver and Bronca.
Yeah. And when did you start that office?
2005,
Until 2009?
2009.
And then you sold it?
Yes.
Did you sell? So, when you sold the Irvine office, what did you do with the files that were there in the Irvine office?
It stayed there,
So you have physical files for each of the patients. You have dental charts
of course,
at each of these offices.
of course.
Right. And you also have the electronic database under Easy Dental, correct?
Yes.
And are the databases between your various offices, at the time that you owned multiple offices, were those databases all running Easy Dental?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever run any other software other than EasyDental?
Yes, EagleSoft.
EagleSoft. Who makes that?
Henry Schein, no, Patterson.
Patterson, right? Henry Schein makes Dentrix.
Dentrix, yes, and EasyDental.
Okay. And so, did you switch over from EagleSoft to EasyDental at some point
Yes.
for all the offices?
No, for Lake Forest.
For Lake Forest. When did you switch over from EagleSoft to EasyDental in Lake Forest?
I don't recall.
So who runs that? Who runs the database, the EasyDental database at Lake Forest?
Who runs? What do you mean?
Who administers it?
Henry Schein.
Do you have in your office an IT person who is responsible for making sure that the Lake Forest EasyDental software is running appropriately?
No.
You do it yourself?
Yes.
Who has access, besides you, to the EasyDental database at the Lake Forest office?
The server, I have the access to.
You have access to the server.
Yes.
Who else has access to the server?
Nobody else.
Nobody else. So can anyone else enter data into that server?
If they have the code.
And does anyone else other than you have the code?
No.
Can anyone other than you pull reports from EasyDental at Lake Forest?
Yes.
The-
Any assistant, any front person?
And so they need the code to do that?
No.
So when I'm saying access to the database, I'm not just talking about going to your server and, physically taking out the hard drive, let's say. What I'm talking about is who has access to the information that's contained in your EasyDental software at Lake Forest,
Anybody who is in my office,
including patients?
if they know how to work with the computers, I don't let them, not necessarily, but I wouldn't let anybody else besides the staff to have access to it.
From beginning to end of 2016, how many people were working at the Lake Forest office?
Three.
I'd like to mark as Exhibit 1 the plaintiff's notice of taking deposition of defendant Kathy Maasoumi and request for production of documents. Copy for you, copy for counsel. Dr. Maasoumi, take a moment to look at the document I've handed you and let me know if you've seen that before.
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
That's regarding the deposition.
It's the notice
Requiring
requiring you to attend today,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And did you read this?
Yes, I did.
And did you read it carefully?
Yes.
Did you understand it when you read it?
Yes.
Did you have any questions about it?
No.
So, taking a look at page 2, you see there's definitions, and then definition number 2 relates to documents. You see that?
Yes.
And you read that?
Can I read that?
Did you read that?
Yes.
And then, if you look at the next page, page 3, you see
Yes.
electronic records.
Yes.
And as you go through the electronic records, that paragraph 3, you understood that included your information contained in EasyDental? Did you
Yes.
understand that? Okay. And take a look at page 4 under instructions. You see number 1 that says, please produce all of the specified documents and electronic records which are in your possession or available to you, or to which you may gain access through reasonable effort, etc. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And continuing on to line 11, that includes, including information in the possession of your past and present attorneys, accountants, investigators, consultants, or other persons directly or indirectly employed or retained by you. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have anyone, an IT person, that you've used before with regard to your dental practices?
Yes, I did.
And who is that?
Mr. Nickzad. Nickzad.
And his first name?
Nick. Nick.
Nick Niksar.
Yes.
Right. And he's a IT specialist?
Yes.
Works for you?
If I have any issues with computers.
Have you had any issues with the Easy Dental program before?
Yes.
And he's fixed it?
Try to, yes.
Has he ever been successful?
Yes.
And so you would go to him if you needed to pull, for example, an inactive file or something that you weren't able to get access to yourself. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, in fact, reach out to him to pull access to the, what you're calling the inactive file for the plaintiff in this case, the one that was before November 2013?
No.
You did not.
No.
So, could you have?
I could, but I inactivated myself.
You inactivated the file yourself?
Yeah.
And when did you do that?
Right when I got your notice, apparently,
Which notice?
of the file of a lawsuit in November of 2016.
So when you got the notice of intent to sue, you went ahead and inactivated the old file?
To see what I have in there.
And you, when you inactivated it, meaning it was active and then you made it inactive, right? The result was that you no longer could access it. Is that right? That's what.
Can you repeat the question?
You said you inactivated the file once you received the letter, correct?
I activated.
Okay. You activated the old file.
Yes.
Got it. So now it's active.
Yes.
Okay. So you could pull the records now.
Yes.
Okay. And have you pulled the records?
Yes.
From the old file as well?
Yes.
From both?
From both.
Okay.
Yes.
So the pre-November 20th, 2013 file,
Yes.
as well as the active file, which is post-November 20th, 2013?
Correct.
Why were there two files?
She had two files probably because as an employee we opened the file for her. Then when she became a patient with her husband, whoever was in front, they opened another one for her, apparently. It wasn't under my control. They opened another file.
Who's they?
I don't recall who was at the time. This goes back in before 2013.
So you're saying that someone who you don't remember
Yes.
created a new file for Ms. Fasami, and you don't know who that is. Is that right?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. Is it your policy of your office, your practice, that people can make new files for patients without your knowledge? Yes or no?
Yes.
So that's your policy. People
Yeah.
can make new files and you won't know about it.
Yes.
And is that something that just happened in her case, or has that happened in other clients as well? For other clients as well? For other patients?
Yes. It could have
And
happened.
in how many other patients' cases has it happened that someone who you didn't know created a new patient dental chart for them without you knowing?
Under maybe 10 other patients.
How do you know that number?
Because I looked at them to see how many they have two charts.
And so when did you look to see how many patients have two charts?
After I found out that one of her files was inactive.
Okay. once you found out that one of her files was inactive, first of all, when was that you found out one of her files is inactive?
2016, November 2016.
November. Okay, and then when you found that out, you went to the Easy Dental database
Yes,
and you ran some sort of report to see how many other patients had a doppelganger file or like a double file,
yes.
and you discovered how many had them? 10?
10, under 10.
Over 10 or under 10?
Under 10,
Best estimate?
yes.
And were those other 10 or so patients, or less than 10 patients, were they also inactive? They had an inactive file?
Yes,
And those inactive files, were they always before the active files in terms of time, meaning that there was a time period that they covered that was inactive before the active file?
yes,
That was the case for all of them.
for all of this.
And is that the same person who did all of that?
I don't know.
Do you have a way of tracking who is accessing and creating dental charts and patient files at your office?
Yes,
And what is that system that you use to track who's making these files?
they usually notify me, if, especially now that this has created, they especially notice me.
Who's they?
Whoever is in the office.
So the person who, you're saying that you had a different practice
Yes.
before,
Yes,
but now they notify you?
yes. I told them, please let me know if you inactivate any file from
And
now on.
what are the reasons that they would inactivate a file?
If a patient changed their insurance, or if they have different financial ways of paying, sometimes they inactivate to open a file because they become as a family, they become as a patient, and they have to be billed under the new information, financial information.
So other than change of financial information or insurance billing, what other instances can cause a file to be inactivated?
Nothing else.
How many patients have you had, or did you have, at Lake Forest that had their insurance change during the period of 2016, let's say?
Maybe 1 or 2.
And from 2008 through 2016, what's your best estimate of all the patients that you treated, had under your care? How many of them had a change in their financial information or in their insurance in those 8 years?
Maybe 10, as I said, 10.
And how many patients did you have overall from 2008 to 2016 that were under your care?
1,000.
So you're saying that 0.1% of your patients had changes to their insurance or their financial information.
Yes,
The other 99.9% for 8 years did not have any changes to their insurance or to their financial information.
exactly.
Even though they may have changed jobs, even though they may have
They have
bought
either
new insurance, even though Obamacare came in, you're saying that nothing, for 99.9% of them, they just stayed the same, right?
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, lacks foundation, calls for speculation. You can answer. It's argumentative too, but you can answer.
I don't see Obamacare patients, so they would never have Obamacare, as you're mentioning.
How many Medi-Cal patients do you see on a, let's say, annual basis?
400 or 500
And Ali Aminpour is the one who takes care of those patients, correct?
at this point, yes.
He does the work on them?
Yes.
Okay. Is he licensed in California?
For what?
Dentistry.
For registered dental assistant. He's a registered dental assistant in California.
Okay. Is he a licensed dentist in California?
No, he's not.
For those 400 to 500 Medi-Cal patients, what are the procedures that Mr. Aminpour is performing on them?
copy of their medical card, copy of their ID card, and opening a file for
You're
them.
saying that he's not doing the actual dental work?
Of course not.
Okay. He's not treating them, he's not advising about the treatment, he's not advising you on what treatments to perform. Is that what you're saying? Is that your
Yes.
testimony?
Yes.
Okay. So at any point has Mr. Aminpour told you, advised you how to treat a patient? Yes or no?
No.
He's never told you to perform a particular procedure or advised you on a treatment plan for a patient?
No.
Never.
Never. Even if he said, I wouldn't answer, rely on that at all. I'm a licensed dentist for 24 years. I wouldn't listen to anybody else unless my diagnosis is my diagnosis. My diagnosis is I do the dental work based on my diagnosis, not anybody else.
So on February 2nd, 2016, when he told you to extract tooth number 19 from the plaintiff, you deny that entire thing happened?
Objection, assumes facts not
Yes or no?
evident. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were not finished with your question. Objection, assumes facts not in evidence, lacks foundation, calls for speculation. You can answer though.
On February 2nd, 2016, when Mr. Aminpour specifically advised you extract tooth number 19, and you told Ms. Qasemi, the plaintiff, I'm going to do what he says, I'm going to extract this tooth. Do you realize that that's...
How would you...
Objection. Wait, hold on. He didn't finish his question. Do you realize? So there's no question pending. And regardless, it assumes facts not.
So on February 2nd, 2016, did Mr. Aminpour advise you to extract tooth number 19 from the plaintiff?
I don't recall.
But it could have happened.
Even if he says that, I don't care what he says.
Okay. And so,
I'm the licensed dentist.
Oh, I'm clear about that. Have you ever had your license suspended?
Not at all.
Have you ever had any complaints against your license?
No.
Have you ever had any malpractice lawsuits filed against you?
No.
Have you ever failed, ever, to obtain written informed consent from a patient before performing a procedure?
Objection. You need to let me state my objections.
Okay.
Objection. It's irrelevant and not reasonably calculated to lead to discovery of admissible evidence with respect to all patients in the entire realm of her treatment.
Well, you've answered the question no, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, why is it that you always obtain written informed consent from patients before doing procedures?
It's our procedures, it's our protocol.
Is there also part of the California Dental Practices Act requiring you to do that, yes or no?
Objection. That calls for a legal conclusion and expert opinion. She is here as a lay witness. I instruct her not to answer.
Are you familiar with what the California Dental Practices Act requires you to do in terms of informed consent, yes or no?
Objection.
Yes.
No. When I object,
Okay.
doctor.
Yes,
Okay.
I understand.
Counsel.
Did you ever study the California Dental Practices Act, yes or no?
Yes.
Did you ever take a course, whether it's continuing education or while you were at USC, where they trained you?
Yes.
Let me finish the question. Where they trained you in that course in following the law in your practice of dentistry?
Yes.
Did you get good grades in that class?
Yes.
And when was that class?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, as a continuing dental education?
Yes.
You're required to take those classes every year, right?
Yes.
And where did you take your continuing dental education? Well, let me finish the question. Where did you take that particular continuing dental education course in the CDPA, the California Dental Practices Act?
I don't recall.
The location? So best estimate of whereabouts. Was it in the U.S.?
Of course.
In California?
Yes.
Southern California?
Yes.
Los Angeles? Or Irvine?
I don't recall.
Somewhere in Los Angeles or Irvine in Southern California. That's 2 years ago. That's where you took the course on written informed consent and all of those requirements, yes?
Yes.
And did you receive a completion certificate for that course?
Sometimes they email, sometimes they give us a certificate. I don't recall.
But you'd be able to find it?
I'll try.
Okay. I'd appreciate that if you could find it and send it to us
Sure.
through your attorney. Thank you. Dr. Maasoumi, please turn to page 6 of the Exhibit 1 in front of you. Number 1, you see that? Any and all documents relating to the dental work performed on plaintiff.
Yes.
Have you brought with you today documents responsive to that request? Yes or no?
No.
Number 2, any and all documents relating to the billing of the plaintiff for the dental work you performed. Did you bring those?
You already have it.
So you're saying as to 1 and 2 that we already have all of the responsive documents. Were there any of those documents that you withheld?
No.
Number 3, any and all documents relating to financial compensation that you received for dental services you performed on plaintiff. Did you
You
bring
have
those
it.
today?
You
We
have
have
it.
all of those. Number 4, which is any and all documents relating to your requests for insurance payments relating to work performed on plaintiff. Have you produced all of those?
You have it.
All of them. Okay. And were all of those requests that you made to the insurance companies, were they valid and for work that was already actually done? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you've never billed for work that you hadn't done.
Absolutely.
You don't have like a practice of billing an insurance company ahead of time just to fill out the maximum of the insurance.
I would not do that.
You never do that.
Never.
That would be insurance fraud, right?
Objection.
Yes. And that would,
Doctor,
Okay.
please. Objection with respect to what insurance fraud is. It lacks foundation, calls for speculation, calls for a legal conclusion.
you have an understanding of what insurance fraud is?
Yes.
Share it with us. What's your understanding of what insurance fraud
Objection.
is?
Objection. She's not here as an expert. It calls for an expert opinion, lacks foundation, and calls for speculation. I'm instructed not to answer.
You can instruct based on that.
Yes,
So
I
please,
can. She's not here as an expert.
I'm not asking her expert opinion.
Yes,
Okay,
you
so
are.
no, I'm not. I'm asking. She's already testified. You testified.
Counsel, we disagree.
Good. You have an understanding of what insurance fraud is, correct? You've testified that. Yes.
Objection. Counsel, I'm instructing her not to answer, to continue to press the same issue when I've instructed her not to answer is not going to do us any good.
It's a separate question. You do have an understanding of what insurance fraud is. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And you avoid insurance fraud, correct?
Yes.
And have you ever committed it?
No.
Have you ever billed for any work that wasn't actually done?
No.
Have you ever billed for any work in advance of doing it?
No.
Have you ever told a patient that, well, you know, I'm going to go back and for the facials, you know, filling cavities, right, fillings, that I billed you for and didn't do, I'm just going to go ahead and tell the insurance company I'm going to refund it. Have you ever done that?
No.
And you didn't have a conversation by text with Kurosh, Kurosh Baroman, Ms. Basami's husband, telling him that for those facials that I did not do, but I billed you for, I'm going to refund the money to your insurance? Yes or no?
Objection. Okay.
Make it an audible answer, by the way.
Excuse me.
She's already answered.
No, make it an honorable answer. Let's.
Yes.
We're gonna walk out if you start beating up on her. Okay, we're not here to go through your dog and pony show. So, but I do need to state an objection, which we provided in the response to discovery. That
Going back to the exhibit in front of you. Number 5, any and all documents relating to creation of plaintiff's dental charts.
You have what I have
There's nothing you have
that you don't have.
that I don't have.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, any and all documents relating to maintenance of plaintiff's dental charts. Again, same answer?
Same.
subject to the objections, please.
Okay, so your attorney's saying subject to objections, etc. But you're telling me all the documents that you have responsive to all of these demands I already have them, yes?
No,
Yes.
objection, that's overbroad.
You provided dental care to Ms. Maasoumi from 2008, correct? Onward?
I would say 2009.
Okay. When in 2009 did she first become your patient?
I don't recall.
Give me your best estimate.
Maybe February?
Beginning or end of February?
Beginning?
Beginning? So between February 1st to 14th of 2009 is when the plaintiff became your patient. Yes. And she was already your employee at that time.
Yes.
And did you ever fire her?
Never.
Did she ever quit?
Yes.
She quit?
Yes.
How did she quit?
She said, I'm pregnant and I don't want to work.
So, did she quit?
Yes.
So she told you, and when was that?
End of 2009? Around end of 2009.
So you're saying that,
2010.
let you finish your answer. So you're saying that between first half of February of 2009 until end of 2010, she was your employee, and then at the end of 2010, she quit?
Yes.
Okay. So she didn't go on leave because of the
No.
pregnancy?
No. She
So-
didn't want to work.
She didn't want to work.
She did not want to work
She did not want to work. How do you know she did not want to work?
because she was claiming that she's pregnant and she gets tired, and she didn't like to work in a dental office to begin with. I mean, she was not very happy to work in a dental office,
Okay.
as if she had to work.
And when you, at that time, which office was she working in?
Los Angeles office and Irvine.
And Irvine,
Yes.
the one on Culver?
Yes.
Okay. Because you had not started the Lake
Lake
Forest
Forest
office yet, right? Okay. And then when you started the Lake Forest office, you had a lot of turnover in your staff, correct? Like the front desk kept coming and changing, and that's when you called her and said, look, I really want you to come back. Is that right? You remember those conversations, the texts?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall texts to our client saying, I want you to come back, I want you to come back, and she'd given birth and you said, now you can come back and work again?
Maybe verbally,
Okay, so
not texting.
after her leave was done, her pregnancy leave, etc., you wanted her to come back, verbally, yes?
Yeah, she was claiming that she needs money and she's under financial strain and difficulties, and I offered, if you want, 1 or 2 days.
When you, and so she did come back, correct? At that
I
point?
don't recall she came back. Or
You don't recall whether she came back and started working again at Lake Forest on Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, I was going to Los Angeles. I was not in Irvine.
Well, in Lake Forest, good point. But once you had sold Los Angeles, right, in 2010, is that right?
2012.
2012, okay. So back in 2010, is that when she started back in just a couple days a week at Lake Forest?
No,
When was it then?
I don't recall.
So how many times did you run reports in connection with providing documents in this case? On how many occasions?
I don't recall how many times.
What I'm asking you is, in connection with responding to the request for production of documents, right, you ran a report to pull plaintiff's medical or dental charts, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You used Easy Dental to pull the electronic files, and you went through your paper files as well,
Yes.
correct? And you put all of them together and produced them, yes? When was the first time you did that?
After I got threatening and harassing texts from her husband.
move to strike is non-responsive. When is a request for a date? So when, in terms of the calendar, when?
We'll say June, July of 2016.
Okay. That's when you went and did the report
Yes,
from Easy Dental,
yes,
and you put together all of the physical paper files.
yes.
And beginning of July or end of July?
End of July, possibly. End
So-
of July,
Of 2016.
yes.
And did anyone help you putting that together? Okay. Did you ever have anyone visit you at your office for the purpose of putting together the file for the plaintiff?
Melissa Leos came in to dig in to retrieve the x-rays that they were not visible.
From what system?
Same system,
From Easy Dental?
yes.
Okay. And is she an IT expert?
Melissa Leos from my office.
Oh.
Remember Miss Leos?
She was
Okay, got it. Okay. So when was that?
back in November again, November 2016.
November 2016, Melissa visited your office to pull
All the x-rays,
from Easy Dental?
yes,
Is that where you keep the x-rays?
yes.
Okay. And what was your understanding of what x-rays she was supposed to pull?
Because I couldn't find the x-rays of her root canals, and I was just looking for it. I couldn't retrieve it.
Was she able to find?
Yes,
Well, let me finish the question. So she was able to find the x-rays of the root canals from what period of time?
I don't recall, sorry.
So, okay, so how many root canals did you perform on Miss Maasoumi? Ever?
One,
One?
just one.
On which tooth?
Tooth number 30,
First molar,
yes,
mandibular,
yes,
right side?
yes.
And when did you perform that root canal?
March 12, 2013.
Okay? And did you ever deny doing that root canal?
No,
No. You never told anyone that I didn't do that root canal, it was pre-existing?
I couldn't find the file. That's all I said. I said I don't have the records. I never said I did not.
Okay. So you never told anyone, like a mutual friend between you and Ms. Maasoumi, that this is made up. I never did this root canal.
No.
Anything similar to that?
I
you
said I can't find the records. I never said I did not because I couldn't find the records.
So, because you have mutual friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you're saying that when you talked to one of the mutual friends and you said, you know, I can't find the records for having done this root canal on Zohra, you didn't say, I didn't do it. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So what did you say to that mutual friend?
So I can't find the x-rays or records for that period of time that I did the root canal for her.
Okay. But you were clear you did the root canal, you just couldn't find the records. That's what you told the friend.
Yes.
And what was that friend's name?
I don't recall. We have so many friends.
Well, how many friends did you say that to?
I wouldn't share that with any friends. I don't know where she got that idea.
You just testified that you did, in fact, tell a friend, a mutual friend, that you couldn't find the x-rays. Under oath, you just testified that. So I'm asking who it was.
It wasn't a friend. It was the law office of yours and his
And
that
you
I
there's-
said.
okay. So
I
you just-
can't recall. I can't reproduce the records. Why would I share her records with someone else?
You just testified that you shared it with a mutual friend.
So I didn't understand your question then.
You understand that the instruction is if you don't understand a question, you're supposed to tell
Yes.
me. So did you think when I said mutual friend, I'm talking about me?
No,
Am I a mutual friend of yours and hers? Okay. Is your attorney here a mutual friend of yours and Zora's?
Objection, it's argumentative.
No, right?
You're not going to be
Okay.
asking if I'm a witness in the case.
Not a witness. I'm asking if you had any reason to think when I said, did you tell a mutual friend that you thought I'm talking about the lawyers in the case.
Not necessarily, but I would not share her treatments or treatment records with anybody that we know. We have a lot of mutual friends, but I would not share that with them.
You wouldn't tell them Zohra is trying to get money from me. She thinks this is the way to get rich in this country by suing someone. You didn't say that. Huh?
I might, yes.
You might have
I
said
did.
that, yeah,
I did,
okay.
yes. Because
And
I
so
heard
who was it that you told that to?
Ferishte.
Okay. Spelling of that name, I believe, is F-E-R-E-S-H-T-E-H. What's
Could
her last
be.
name?
Shafi. Yeah,
Who else?
nobody else.
No friends of Kurosh?
I don't know friends of Kurosh. Why would I know friends of her husband?
So Fereshte was the only person who you said, you know, Zohra is making this up. She's just trying to get money. I never did the root canal. Right?
I never said I did not do the root canal.
Okay, you just said I don't have records of the root canal.
Yes.
Okay. Did Fereshte respond when you said I don't have records of the root canal? Did she?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said she heard it. Zohra said, I'm going to close her office. I'm going to get her license. And I'm going to make sure she doesn't have the way of practicing. She hurt me so much. And I want to make sure she pays for that.
How did you feel when she said that?
I felt surprised.
Right. So,
Very surprised.
but just because you said I couldn't find the records for her root canal, you know, did that mean in your mind that you didn't do the root canal?
No?
So you thought you could have done it.
Yeah.
You just couldn't find the X-rays.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the root canal on March 12, 2013.
Yes.
Yeah. So, did you actually have anybody else there when you were doing the root canal?
I don't recall who was assisting me at the time.
How many assistants did you have there?
One or two.
One or two? Okay. Do you remember their names?
Back in 2013, I had so many people coming and
The answer is yes or no. Do you remember their names?
no,
Male or female?
female.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have do you have an idea of who it could have been? So the people who were working around that period?
2013. She might remember. I don't remember.
Just listen to his questions, and it's not what other people know. It's just.
I don't remember,
so
to be
you
honest.
know.
So you don't remember, so how many people were working for your office in total as assistants during the period of, you know, around March 12th, 2013?
Objection.
I don't
asked and-
recall.
Objection. Asked and answered. You asked how many were there, presuming there meant the office as
Yes.
opposed to the operatory room.
Yes. What I'm asking is, that day, March 12th, 2013, okay, as of that day, how many people did you have employed as assistants on your payroll?
I don't recall.
Give me your best estimate.
That's improper. If you can't recall, there is no best estimate. That's asking for a guess, and the instructor
Was
knows
it
the
more than
answer.
10?
No,
Was it more than 5?
no,
So was it more than 3?
no,
Was it more than 2?
no.
Was it more than 1?
Yes,
So it was 2.
possibly.
Okay. I'm sure you keep good payroll records, right?
Yes.
Okay. You comply with all the payroll tax laws, everything?
Yes.
Okay. So when you hire someone, you have to fill out certain forms for yourself, correct?
Yes.
And which forms do you fill out?
W4 or W2?
Okay. And so you've done that with all your employees.
Majority, yes.
Okay. So some of them you haven't filled out the forms. Are they working under the table or what?
No. At
So-
the end of the year, they pay their taxes,
Oh.
or they from the payroll.
Okay.
They pay payroll taxes.
Got it. So you're saying for some employees you don't keep records of their employment? You don't keep an employee
I never
file?
said that. I
Okay.
said I never keep a W2 or W9 of them.
Okay.
And
Then
this
let
is
me
what's.
rephrase the question.
I'm going to object.
Withdraw the
and I'm
question.
going-
Withdraw the question, counsel. Do you
Which
have
question is
employee-
withdrawn? I'm not sure. That's what I'm
The
not
last
understanding.
one about are you saying? The very last question. question is this. You keep an employee file for every one of your employees, correct?
Yes.
Every one.
Yes.
And what kind of information, I'm not asking for specific information about any employees, I'm asking what kinds of information do you keep in your employee file for each employee?
Their name, date of birth, address, social security.
What about the date of hire?
That's the same day that they sign, we fill up that form.
Sure, and it's dated, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the date that they were
Yes.
hired, correct? Like their start date?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And if they quit, do you also have their termination date? Or if they get fired?
Of course.
And that's in the employee file as well?
Yes.
You write it as soon as it happens, right?
Yes.
Okay. So are all of your employee files complete?
No.
Okay. So are they missing items?
Objection
know.
calls for, but it lacks foundation and calls for speculation.
I'm asking a simple question. Like for every employee that you've had, you keep those basic information. You know, their name, address, phone number, when they started, when they ended, how much they're getting paid, that kind of thing, right? Those information.
Yes, I do have those information.
So it's not like there's an employee whose file is incomplete about that basic information you just mentioned, right?
Could be.
It could be.
Yeah,
Who's in charge of maintaining those employee
I
files?
am.
You are. Anybody else other than you?
No.
And so when you say it could be incomplete,
Yeah.
It lacks, I'm sorry, the reason it lacks foundation, because you're asking her about employee files that she may not have looked at.
when was the last time you looked at your employee files?
2 years ago.
Do you keep them up to date as events happen? So once you hire, they sign it. Once they're let go or they quit, then you record the information contemporaneously, correct? At the same time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. You do the same thing with your dental charts.
Yes.
For patients.
Yes.
Right. Okay. You keep your dental charts in Easy Dental.
Yes.
Where do you keep your employee records?
In my drawer, in my office.
Do you have electronic copies of them? Mm-mm. Okay. You don't use Easy Dental for employee records, correct?
No.
You can't.
No.
Why not?
Why would I?
Well, could you?
I wouldn't.
Is the software designed for employees or is it designed for patients?
For patients.
Only.
Only.
Okay. So, sometime in 2013, November 20th, 2013, actually, a new file was created for Ms. Qasemi. Why was that new file created?
Because she went under her husband's insurance and her financial status changed.
Okay. Whose insurance was she under before that?
No insurance. I never charged her.
So you're saying from 2008 to 2013, you were working on Ms. Qasemi without charge of any kind?
Yes.
Why?
Because she was employee, she was an employee,
Okay.
and she always complained of financial hardship. She said, I have twins. My husband is working 2 or 3 shifts, and I didn't feel like charging her.
So she was working for her, she was part of her benefits, right?
Yes.
Okay, so she was getting dental care as a benefit, and she was
Yes.
working for that, basically. She was working as an employee, and this was part of her compensation.
Correct.
Okay. And so you didn't bill insurance for any work that you did on Zohar Qasemi, before November 20th, 2013.
Not on her. She didn't have insurance.
Did you bill anyone else's insurance?
No.
Did you bill Kurosh's insurance?
No.
Okay, so do you understand what a person most knowledgeable is?
Yes.
So just to be clear, it means that as to these categories of 1 through 18, there's no one else in Kathy Maasoumi DDS Inc. at the company who knows better or more information or more exact information or more complete information than you as to each of those 18 categories.
Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed that notice.
Yes.
And you are that person most knowledgeable.
Yes.
So we're going to get to that depot after this one, so at some point we're going to break and move into that one. But I will ask you a question about exhibit number 2. Number 4, right? You see that it says all financial compensation received by you for dental services you performed on plaintiff. Now that you there is referring to your corporation.
Yes.
So Is there anyone else in your office who knows better than you do about money that came in to your company,
No,
right, for any work on a patient?
no,
And in particular, on any work done for Ms. Qasemi?
no,
You're the best person to ask.
yes,
So, late July, taking you back a little bit, late July of 2016, you pulled the electronic and paper files and for the plaintiff, right?
correct.
And you pulled both the inactive one and the active one,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
So you went and first made the inactive one active,
Correct.
so you could pull those files too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the inactive one that you activated again in July contained all the records from 2008 or 9, let's say, from the beginning, right? All the way through to November 20th, 2013, correct?
Correct.
About a 4-year span?
Yes.
Okay. And did you produce those to us too?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified earlier that you couldn't get the x-rays out
At the time.
at the
Yes.
time. Okay. And then Melissa came over, and she was the one who actually
Yes.
sat at the computer.
Retrieve it. Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry.
You
So-
need to let him finish the question.
Sure.
He asks questions very quickly. He doesn't seem to give a lot of time. So you take your time.
Sure, I will.
So she sat at your station, I guess your computer station, and opened up Easy Dental and went in and ran a filter of some sort to pull the files, right?
Correct.
And is there a special kind of search that she was able to do that you were not able to do?
Apparently,
Okay. Were you with her while she was doing it?
no. I was with the patient.
Okay. How long did it take her?
I don't
Well,
recall.
About.
This is an area that's attorney work product, and you're asking what was done by a lawyer from my office, a former lawyer.
Yeah. There's
So
no-
I'll let her ask that question, but I need to make
I'm
sure we're not
careful.
going into.
I'm careful. I know where the
I
line is.
appreciate that.
I'm not interested in any information like that. Okay.
About 45 minutes, I would say.
Okay. And was the information that she pulled in printed format or some sort of electronic format?
It was just x-rays.
Did she print the X-rays
Yes.
on a color printer
On a CD. She produced it on a CD.
as PDFs?
I don't know.
So did you ever see the CD?
I have the x-rays now. I didn't need to see the CD.
How did you obtain the X-rays?
I made copies of them. I printed them.
Oh, okay. So you printed them from the CD that she gave you?
No, from the computer.
So the question was I guess the problem only was finding them,
Yes.
not saving them or printing them?
No, finding them.
And where were they stored?
I don't know.
Okay, and were they the complete set of X-rays for her done from 2008 or 9 all the way through 2013?
No,
So you're saying Melissa was not able to find all the X-rays?
she was.
She was.
Whatever I had in the computer, she retrieved it.
Okay, got it. Has there ever been a time when you take X-rays and they don't end up in the computer?
Yes.
When is that?
There are glitches in the computer. They either are not saved or they are saved somewhere else. Somebody has to come and search for it.
So how often has that happened?
It happens once in a while. It does happen.
And you've been using the same software for how long now?
Since 2009,
And how many times has it happened since then? That you've lost X-rays that you've taken from a patient?
maybe 3 or 4.
And when have you found out that, oh, the X-ray didn't get saved or
It was
stored?
not the software issue. It was a computer issue,
What do you mean? Hardware issue?
hardware issue,
Such as, like, the hard drive was not working?
possibly.
Okay.
And we changed it. We corrected it.
I see. You're saying that you had issues with your actual hardware and the hard drive was malfunctioning or bad sectors, etc. Okay.
Yes.
And was that the case with Ms. Qasemi's file?
Could be.
Well,
Oh, wait, if you could lay some foundation.
sure.
I'm not
okay.
sure.
Did you take any steps to find out whether any X-rays that were taken from Ms. Qasemi, right, were actually lost in the system? Did you take anything to find out, any steps to find out?
Yes.
What did you do to find out?
When I activated the inactive file, I looked at all the x-rays, and I couldn't find the x-ray for the root canal. That's where the Melissa came in to retrieve him.
Okay. And you did that search in July of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. And Melissa came in when again to do the search?
I don't recall.
About?
Around the same time,
Around the same time? About a week later, maybe?
maybe.
Okay. So other than sitting at your computer and pulling the x-rays from this previously inactive file that you had activated, what other data did Melissa pull from the system?
There was nothing else to pull.
Just radiographs.
Just radiographs.
Okay. Is it your understanding that the radiographs that were pulled and put on a CD were in fact the complete set of radiographs?
To my knowledge, yes.
So there,
May I object? But this is my
Sure.
concern. When you say the complete set of radiographs, you're talking about what was available at the time? Because we don't have the...
Let me be clear. Okay. Was it your understanding that all the radiographs that you took of plaintiff actually ended up on that CD?
Yes.
And then, so when you produced those, so when you produced the documents after that search, those radiographs ended up getting sent to just us, basically,
Yes.
at some point. Okay. And so, just to be clear, I'm not missing any radiographs that were actually taken from her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Strike that. Did you always get written informed consent from Ms. Qasemi for all the work that you were going to do on her?
Yes.
From the beginning of the time she became a patient of yours in 2009, right, until 2016, let's say June, when she stopped being your patient, every procedure you performed on her had a written informed consent, correct?
Absolutely.
Signed by her,
Yes.
never signed by someone else.
No.
What is your policy with regard to obtaining written informed consent from patients? What is your policy?
We tell them pros and cons of doing this procedure, and we let them decide, and they know the risk and benefits of a procedure, and then they sign.
Okay, so, for example, if I were your patient, right? I'm not, but if I were, and I wanted to, for example, change a crown. What are the things that you would have to tell me in order for me to be informed enough about the risks and all the pros and cons, as you mentioned, before you would say, in your mind, you have my informed consent? What are those things you'd have to tell me about a crown that you're putting on a tooth?
Objection to the extent it calls for an expert opinion, lacks foundation, calls for a legal conclusion, but you can answer.
And by the way, you know, how long have you been practicing dentistry? Since 95? 94?
94, yes.
94? How many years is that?
24.
24 years? Okay. You're not here as an expert today, or in this case, you're not going to be testifying at the trial or here today as an expert, like an expert witness, okay? And there's also, you know, there's also an understanding that, you know, you're not an amateur, correct, in dentistry?
I'm not,
right?
yes.
Do you consider yourself to be a competent dentist?
Yes, I am.
Do your patients consider you to be competent,
Of course.
and they come back? and
Yes.
They refer people?
Yes.
Have you ever been accused of not being competent as a
Never.
dentist? Never.
Never.
24 years, it's been, you know, rock solid performance, correct?
Of course, yes.
Do you ever do any procedures where you don't know what you're doing?
No.
And how often do you have to refer out a patient to a specialist?
If there is something beyond my scope of practice, I would refer the patient.
Such as what?
Wisdom teeth extractions, redoing a root canal, periodontal surgeries.
That's gum surgery.
Yes.
Right, okay.
I would refer them.
Sure. Anything else that you would refer out?
No?
Orthodontics?
No?
Like the first root canal? Like a root canal?
No, I do it in my office.
And how many root canals have you done?
Thousands.
Thousands? More than 5,000?
I would say 3,000.
3,000? In the 3,000s? Okay. Between 3 to 4,000? Okay. How many bone grafts have you done?
Thousands. 1,000.
About 1,000? Okay. Allografts mostly?
Yes.
Okay. How do you do a bone graft?
After cleaning the socket and irrigating and scraping, making sure there's no infection,
Okay.
I would put the bone graft in, put the membrane, and resuture.
You ever use gauze instead of membrane?
No.
No? Why do you use membrane?
Membrane to protect the bone graft from integrating the soft tissue into the bone.
Okay. And do you use SDS?
What
Or
is
DS,
this?
I'm sorry, DSD, I'm dyslexic today. Do you use DSD medication?
What is DSD medication?
Okay. So you've never heard of that word.
The acronym.
But you've never used something. Well, I'm asking if she understands the acronym. You have an understanding of what DSD stands for? Okay. Do you know what debridement is?
Yes.
Okay. What is debridement?
Cleaning
Cleaning. Okay.
and making sure there is no infected tissue there.
What kind of infected tissue?
Bone or soft tissue or cysts.
Okay. And what is the? How do you know you've debrided enough when you're doing a bone graft?
I use my clinical judgment.
And in your clinical judgment, what is the point at which you know you've debrided enough?
Is a solid bone.
Objection. It's overbroad, vague and ambiguous. It's an incomplete hypothetical. You can answer. You can answer though.
I don't want to. I mean, I don't have to give a lecture here.
Please answer.
Can you repeat your question?
Sure. So when you're doing a bone graft,
Yes.
right, and you're debriding,
Yes.
right, at what point in your clinical judgment do you know that you've debrided enough in the
Object-
socket?
Objection. It's overbroad. It's an incomplete hypothetical. It lacks foundation, but you can answer.
I don't want to answer.
That's not one
I
of the
don't have
options.
to.
Respectfully, doctor,
Are
that's
you
not
un-
one of the options.
Are you unable to answer
You are-
because of the? No, I don't want you to get in a conversation with planning council.
Okay.
Are you unable to answer the question because of all the variables that are involved with it?
Yes.
Well, that's coaching, but that's okay. So what I'm asking you is slightly different. I'll ask you a different version of it. Okay. So, are there certain things you look for, as you're debriding the socket, to know when the debridement has been completed? Are there certain signs that you look for?
Yes. Sound bone. Sound clean bone.
By sound, you mean what?
Hard bone.
Okay.
And fresh blood.
Okay.
Sometimes we indentate the bone to get
Okay.
fresh blood.
Good. There we go.
And we irrigate.
One more time, please.
I irrigate it with chlorhexidine. And we curettage the area, basically,
Why do you want to see fresh blood?
to make sure there is no affected or infected tissue to integrate into the bone graft.
Is that the only reason, is to check that there's no affected or infected tissue,
No.
Objection.
No, there are other reasons.
such as?
Objection. You're going to the area of an expert now. If you want to limit the questioning regarding this with respect to the extraction of number 19,
Sure.
I'll let it, but we're going to areas
No
that...
problem. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm asking, listen, I'm entitled to ask about her practice and then compare to what actually happened. So that's what I'm asking, and I'm entitled to do that because I need to know whether, according to her own understanding of her practice and the standard of care, in her understanding, did she? That's very legitimate, and I don't want to have to waste time on this.
We disagree.
That's okay, and there's no instruction, there's no foundation for the basis for an instruction on that. You know that,
Yes,
right?
2034, Civil Procedure 2034. I've done it. This isn't my first time, and I
understand
respect
that.
that you've been doing this for a while as well.
Sure.
We may have varying opinions, and if we do, we continue on, we go talk to the judge.
So, right. Well, we're pretty close to the trial date, and if we need to go into a motion to compel, we will, but bear in mind that, if, I don't mind compelling the answers or attempting to. Maybe you're right, maybe I'm right, okay? And it could go either way. We'll leave it up to the judge on those, but what I'm saying is that if we do have a lot of instructions that we need to go in on, then we're going to need to continue the trial. So I'm just letting you know that we're not going to allow our client to be prejudiced by instructions not to answer so late in the game. So if we can talk about that, I'm just saying, look, I want a clean deposition, and I don't want to have instructions that are not strictly based on privilege and appropriate instructions. So
I believe that all my instructions are appropriate.
great, and I disagree with them to a large extent.
Like we've said, we can disagree. If you
Yes.
disagree, we just move on and you keep going into the other areas.
I
that you
understand how to
believe-
proceed from there. I'm just letting you know that it may require motions on that regard. So,
Sure.
all right. So, look, I'm asking you what you normally do. I'm not asking you as an expert what should be done, what everyone does. Okay, I'm asking you what your normal practice is, right? So, normal practice is when you do an extraction, for example, and you want to do a bone graft. You want to debride and you want to make sure there's no infection, get that out, right? And then you want to also chemically sort of score the ostium, right? And whether it's like, what is it like? You're looking for like D4, right, or
Yes.
D3, right?
Well, it depends on what is the wall, how many walls are remained.
Sure, but when you're down here on number 19 in the mandible, right? You're dealing with probably D3.
Yes.
Okay, so that's hard enough bone that once you go a little bit into it, you can see the blood, and you know that
It's fresh. and
osseointegration is going to
sufficient,
happen, right?
yes.
Because you need blood to have
Osteointegration, yeah.
osteoblasts
Yes.
that they're going to enter. That's what I was looking for that answer, but that's fine. We're
Yeah.
kind of talking the same language. Okay, so and then you put the allograft in, right? And then you have to use a membrane, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens if you don't use a membrane?
Objection. It calls for an expert opinion and lacks foundation.
In your experience, What's happened if you-
doesn't- I'm sorry, I'm not done with my objection. It doesn't matter about her experience, her experience. We're not designating her as an expert under 2034, and that's
understand
where
that.
that's where we're disagreeing.
I understand. Listen, this is all about what her understanding is. I'm not asking her as an expert. So
Yes,
You're
you are.
checking my knowledge? Is
Yes,
that what you're doing?
Doctor, you don't need to address him, okay? So I'm instructing her not to answer the questions regarding, with all the variables, with every single patient. If you want to talk about this particular patient, then we can talk about this particular patient.
Okay. Do you have a way that you do things yourself with patients? When you're doing an extraction and you're putting a bone graft, you have a procedure for yourself, right?
Yes, I do.
You have a checklist?
I need to object. Objection. It's vague and ambiguous. It's overbroad. There are too many variables for the doctor to answer that. Are we talking about lower, upper areas of decay, bone loss?
Wonderful.
There's too many variables for her to answer that.
Okay, and let's keep the objections short. I understand what you're saying. So let's be very specific. Okay?
I'm not going to keep
When
my
you're doing
objections short. Those comments don't help us go forward at all. My objections will be stated the way I want to state them.
when you did an extraction on number 19
Yes.
plaintiffs, right?
Yes.
And that's when you did the bone graft as well,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So did you clean out the socket?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you debride?
Yes, I did.
And did you see fresh blood?
Yes, I did.
And did you place the bone graft?
Yes.
Okay. What about the membrane?
Yes.
Why didn't you use gauze?
We put the gauze over when she
Did you?
bites.
Okay. It's fine. So you used the membrane. What
Yes.
kind of membrane did you use?
Resorbable membrane?
And you note all of these things in the charts when you do them, right?
Yes,
Like
of
which,
course.
Which membrane and
Counsel and the witness, please speak one at a time.
Okay.
And not create a great record.
You, please, need to slow down because I can't state the objections that I believe.
Okay.
Because he made an assumption that you did not use gauze. So objection, assumes not evidence, assumes facts not in evidence, and lacks foundation.
so you mentioned that you used the membrane. which brand membrane did you use?
I use Alloplast.
Sorry,
Alloplast.
can you spell it for the court reporter?
Alloplast.
Okay. And what was is that the brand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that the membrane you always use?
Sometimes, or Dynoblast.
How do you decide which one to use?
Depends on what's the size and how often I need to get in there for implant or not.
So number 19 was, were you planning to do an implant?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And you did an implant.
I did not.
You did not do an implant.
No. For her?
Yes, for her.
No.
No implant on number 19.
No.
Okay. So, but you did you put a stay plate for her?
Yes.
At least you ordered a stay plate?
Yes.
What is a stay plate?
The stay plate is maintaining the space so she can chew on, and we're maintaining the space so later on we can go in and put an implant.
Okay. Other than a missing tooth or an extraction, there's no other reason to use a stay plate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is there any other variables that could affect whether you're going to use a stay plate? When you finish the question, I'm going to start again because you look like you're about to interrupt. So please let me finish. Do you have any other variables? Are there any other variables that you have to consider to use a stay plate for a patient that has no missing teeth, no extractions, no missing teeth? Yes or no?
Objection. She's here as a lay witness. You're asking expert opinions. It violates Code of Civil Procedure Section 2034 et sec. I'm instructing her not to answer.
Have you ever used a stay plate on a patient for anything other than an extraction or a missing tooth? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Other than extraction or missing tooth?
No, there is no other use.
There's no other use. Okay, just to be clear. So, have you ever obtained written informed consent for placing a crown on a patient? Ever?
Yes.
Have you, in fact, ever failed to obtain written informed consent before placing a crown?
I don't recall.
It could have happened.
Could have.
Who's responsible for making sure that you have written informed consent in your office? Who's the person responsible?
I am.
Okay. So you would be the person to know if you've ever failed, right?
Yes.
And is it your testimony that you don't know if you've ever failed?
Objection to the form of the
I'm not
question.
clear about your question.
Doctor, when I state my objections,
Yes.
okay, I need to state my objections for the record, and I'll then inform you whether to answer or not. So, Ms. Court Reporter, could you read that question back, please?
Question, and is it your testimony that you don't know if you've ever failed?
No, just get the damn simple.
I don't understand.
Fill it out completely.
You
You chopped up.
testified to it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so you understand the question, or you don't?
I don't.
So
It's argumentative.
you don't just obtain, informed or written informed consent from a patient, sort of as a matter of habit, right? For yourself, like it's not just a habit. You have a reason for it, correct?
Of course.
Okay, and what's the reason you have for it?
Patient knows pros and cons, risks involved in getting the crown.
Why is that important?
Because she has to choose. She has the right to choose to get the treatment or not to get the treatment.
So if the patient is not aware of certain facts about a treatment or certain facts that result in her diagnosis, in your experience, in your practice, have you ever had such a patient sign a written consent without letting her know everything you know about the reasons for the treatment?
No?
Which is obviously important, correct?
Of course.
So, in the case of Ms. Maasoumi, for every treatment that you've done on her from 2009 through 2016,
Yes.
did you in fact obtain written informed consent for every single treatment?
To my knowledge, yes.
Well, who else would know other than you?
Nobody else.
Okay. And how do you document your written informed consent in your
It's
practice?
in the chart.
And where in the chart is it?
It's just either stapled or inside the pocket.
What pocket are you referring to?
The files have pockets.
Okay.
We put them in.
Do you write it in to the rows? Like, okay, so in your charts, you have several columns and several rows, the handwritten notes that you take, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the left column? What's supposed to go into the leftmost column of that chart, of the handwritten chart?
The date.
The date. Okay. And then is the whole chart supposed to be in order of dates? Okay. So you understand the rules about you can't go back in time and backdate something, correct? Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what happens if you need to change a particular entry on your chart? What's your practice when you have to, let's say you make a mistake. You're writing one medication and then you accidentally write the wrong medication, right? How are you supposed to change that in your chart?
Well, this is my problem, and I'm
In your
Because-
practice. Okay, let me amend it to. I understand what you're saying.
I'm
gonna
not
say-
finished. I'm
Sure.
not finished.
Yes, go ahead.
Because you first ask what she does, and then you say, "How are you supposed to?"
Okay.
So how are you supposed to? That's where
I
my
understand.
ears
And-
jump up.
And respectfully, that's what we disagree on because she, quite frankly, she's not here as the expert, but she clearly knows more than the average person about dentistry.
That's
And so she's
not the issue, and we've already talked about that.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, I'm going to object
okay.
each time that you say, "What are you supposed to do?"
All right. Well, you can do that, and
I will.
that's the issue that we're going to take up. with
Okay,
the
so
court.
then objection. I'll instruct you not to answer because it's asking for an expert opinion and violates Code of Civil Procedure Section 2034.
Do you know what you're supposed to do?
Objection.
Do you know what you're
That's-
supposed? That's not an
that's-
expert question.
That's overbroad. It's irrelevant.
Okay.
It's vague and ambiguous, and it calls for an expert opinion. I instruct you not to answer.
So, you know how to write a dental chart, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any unclarity or questions about how you're supposed to maintain a dental chart yourself?
Objection. Again,
Okay.
you're
Withdrawn,
asking for
withdrawn.
an
I
expert
understand, I
opinion,
understand.
and all you're just
Withdrawn.
beating me over the head.
I'm not trying to do that, counselor. So, okay. Has there ever been a time when you felt unsure as to how you're supposed to make a change on a dental chart?
No.
And so if a patient comes in and has a treatment done, the left column is where the date is that the treatment was done, correct?
Yes.
In your practice, what do you place in the column to the right of the date on your handwritten dental charts?
The treatment performed on the patient.
Okay, so do you also write the tooth that it was performed on?
Yeah.
Which column is that?
The middle one between my treatment and the date.
Okay, so when I'm asking next to the date, immediately to
It's
the
a
right.
tip number.
There you go. Okay, and then to the right of that is?
It's a treatment. Treatment
Okay.
records.
And so is that the treatment plan or is that the treatment you performed?
Treatment performed.
In the past tense.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So where do you keep your treatment plans or where do you write down your treatment plan for the patient?
On a separate page.
Okay. And so you do on your handwritten dental chart, you've got the left column is the date that the treatment was performed. Then one column over, the second column, is the tooth number,
Yes.
right? And the third column is the treatment that was performed,
Correct.
okay? And then
My signature.
your signature on every row, correct? On every, okay, good. So what information do you include about informed consent in the third column?
I assume the informed consent is already done, is taken from the patient.
You assume that?
Yes, it should have been,
Why should it have been?
is our protocol for the office.
Okay? And how did you create that protocol for your office?
Every patient signs the document, the informed consent.
That's your protocol.
Yes.
How did you create that protocol?
I did not create it.
Who created it?
It's supposed to be that way.
Who says?
Well, American Dental Association,
What about the California Dental Association?
California Dental Association,
What about the
Orange County Dental Association.
What about the California Dental Practices Act, the law?
Could be. Yeah, it is.
Well, you just took a course in it 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
it
So
is.
yes, right? That's how it's right.
California Dental Act, yeah.
Okay, so you're abiding by the law,
Yes, of course.
and you're abiding by the CDA's requirements.
Absolutely.
Objection calls for an expert opinion.
Okay.
Objection.
Withdrawn. Have you ever refunded money to an insurance company?
No, again, I'm objection.
In the case of our client, what was the total annual that was billable or was covered, her maximum for dental insurance every year?
I don't recall.
1,500 about, right?
Objection.
I don't recall.
What's your best estimate?
Every insurance is different. I don't remember.
Was it $1 million?
No,
Was it 500,000?
no,
Was it more than 25,000?
no.
Was it more than 1,000?
Could be.
Was it more than 2,000?
I don't think so.
So was it 1,500?
Could be.
Was it more than 1,500? Was it less than 1,500?
I don't remember.
Was it more than 1,500?
I don't recall her maximum benefit.
Somewhere between
I have
a-
so many patients. How would I remember her benefits?
Did you review any documents in preparation for this deposition?
Yes.
What did you review?
All the money we got from the insurance company was $4,000 over those many years. You have them. Why don't you calculate them?
But you reviewed them,
Yes.
okay? And did you review the documents that you produced to us?
Yes.
Okay. And in those documents,
Yes.
the maximum is listed, correct? Her maximum dental coverage is listed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you reviewed those?
Yes.
Okay, what was that number?
I didn't review that page per se. No.
Okay. But you remember it was between 1,000 to 2,000. That's what you testified.
What difference does it make? Yes.
The difference is I'm asking the question, please answer it.
No, objection. Okay. You're getting very argumentative.
I'm
now.
asking a question,
And
and
counsel, I'm just trying to.
You can admonish her. but
I'm
she's
gonna
supposed to answer
no. I am
questions.
going to continue to say what I say. She indicated initially that she doesn't recall what the amount is. Now you've asked her what document she's reviewed to potentially refresh her recollection. She says she hasn't reviewed that and didn't look at that area. So you're asking her to guess, and that is improper.
Again, on a different issue, I don't want to get into it with you, but 1,000 to 2,000 was your best estimate that you just gave me.
If you know, objection, a lax foundation calls for speculation. If you know, he's entitled to an estimate. If you have no basis for an estimate, then that's guessing, and we don't want you to guess. Counsel doesn't want you to guess. His client doesn't want you to guess.
I don't remember.
Okay, so, but you were clear it wasn't more than 25,000.
Yes, usually they are not.
Okay, but this, in her case, in Zohra Qassemi's case, she didn't have more than 10,000 in dental coverage, correct? As far as you remember?
In a year?
Yes, in a year.
Of course not.
Okay, how about more than 5,000?
I don't think so.
How about more than 2,000?
I don't think so.
Okay, how about less than 1,000?
Could be, but
Could
I'm not
be.
sure.
How about less than 500?
I don't remember that. I don't remember all these numbers. Who has how much?
Well, you were billing the maximum to her insurance every year, weren't you?
No,
You weren't?
no.
How much money did you leave in her insurance
All
coverage?
based on
Let me finish the question. Every year, as you were billing her insurance, well, before 2013, you were billing the other insurance, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
There was
who's-
no insurance.
No
Before
insurance.
2013, there was no insurance. Whom am I
So,
billing?
you
Who
weren't,
was I?
you weren't billing Kurosh's insurance before
No,
2013?
that was for him. That
Oh.
wasn't for her.
You weren't basically, okay, let's withdraw that. Now, and we'll get to lunch because he's running out of tape too. On March 12th, 2013,
Yes.
when you did the root canal on tooth number 30, okay, a file broke inside the root, okay, and so it was file number, was it file number 20, the hand files? Which one
Could
was
be.
it?
I don't. If I knew it, I would have let her know.
Got it.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know a file broke.
No.
And so-
Council, you're going into a different area now.
So when
We're at 12:08. We request that we take a lunch break.
Let me finish the question. Was her husband also there that day?
Yes.
What was he doing?
He
Watching
came
her?
afterwards. He
Came afterwards?
Yeah.
To watch her?
Okay.
Or?
No.
Council,
to
we're
get
asking
fillings
you-
done.
Well, Doctor, I'm going to interrupt.